Hi, welcome to the lesson on graphing inequalities on a number line part 2. There are some more things you should know when working with inequalities, and the first is that if the inequality contains the word or, the graph points in two opposite directions. For example, let's take x is less than 0 or x is greater than -1. So we're going to go ahead and plot these two inequality expressions separately. So the first one being x is less than 0. So we know this is going to be an open circle due to the inequality symbol, and we're going to shade towards the left. Or x is greater than -1. So we have -1 here is going to be an open circle, and we are shading towards the right this time since x is greater than -1. So notice how the graph points in two opposite directions. So that's what's going to happen anytime you're faced with the word or. So now the second thing you should know about graphing inequalities, well, if the variable is in the center of two inequalities, the graph is going to occur between the 2 points. So let me go ahead and show you by using an example. So -3 is less than or equal to x is less than 1. So this is where the word and comes into play. And comes from the combining of the two graphs. So this one inequality statement here is going to be one graph, so to speak, or two graphs that is combined into one. So this is how we would read this. Take a look at this variable x in the center here, and if you notice the opening on this inequality symbol is facing towards the x, that means we're going to read it as x is greater than or equal to -3. Okay, so remember this opening is facing towards the variable x, so the mouth is open, so that means it's greater. So x is greater than or equal to -3. Then we're going to come back to the center with this variable x and read x is less than 1. So combining it all together is really read as x is greater than or equal to -3 and x is less than 1. So let's go ahead and graph one at a time. So let's take x is greater than or equal to -3. So we have -3 here is going to be a closed circle due to the inequality symbol. And since we're talking about greater than, that means we're going to shade towards the right. But we're going to hold off on the shading for now. So let's come back and read x is less than 1. So we're going to shade in the number 1 here. And this is going to be an open circle, remember, because of the inequality symbol. And since it's x than 1, we're going to shade towards the left. And then since x is greater than or equal to -3, we're shading towards the right. So notice how these two graphs come together. They are combined. Okay, so that's what it would look like. So now that you know that, let's go over some examples. So let's say that you're given x is less than -1. So we're going to plot this point. We have -1 is an open circle. X is less than -1, so we are shading towards the left. Okay, another example would be if you have x is greater than or equal to 3. So we know this is going to be a closed circle on the number 3. that means we're shading towards the right. Okay, so let's go over some more examples. Let's say that you have -2 is less than x, and x is less than 3. Okay, so let's start with this variable and read x is greater than -2. So let's go ahead and plot that first. So x is greater than -2. So we have -2 here. It's an open circle. That means we're going to shade towards the right. However, let's go ahead and hold off on the shading until we plot this next one. X is less than 3. So we have 3 here. It's an open circle. And since it's less than, we're shading towards the left, right? So notice how these come together, and x is greater than -2. So we're shading towards the right. So let's go over some more. Clear this out. Let's say you're given 0 is less than x, and x is less than or equal to 2. So let's go back and read this. X is greater than 0. So let's go ahead and plot that. So this is an open circle. We know that we're going to be shading towards the right, so we can shade a little bit. And then come back and read x is less than or equal to 2. So we know this is going to be a closed circle. And since it's less than or equal to -2, we're going to shade towards the left. And notice they come together. Okay, let's go over a couple more examples here. So what about x is less than -1/2, or x is greater than or equal to the square root of 2. So let's go ahead and graph this one first. So x is less than -1/2. So we have -1/2 right here. It's going to be an open circle, and it's going to be shaded towards the left. Or x is greater than or equal to the square root of 2. So let's plot our point here. Remember, this is going to be a closed circle, and is greater than or equal to the square root of 2. That means it's going to include the square root of 2, right? So we're going to shade towards the right. So notice they're going in opposite directions. So let's go ahead and work with one more example. So let's say you're given -2 is less than x, and x is less than 2. Okay, so that means we already know that our two graphs are going to combine, correct? So x is greater than -2. So let's go ahead and find -2, plot that. It's an open circle. Okay, and it's greater than, so we know we're shading towards the right. And x is less than 2. So go ahead and find 2. It's an open circle. Since it's less than 2, since x is less than 2, we're shading towards the left. So they come together. Okay, so that's all we have for this lesson. I hope it was helpful, and I look forward to working with you in the next lesson. Thanks.